After a nightmare on Wall Street in New York, it was a bloodbath on Dalal Street in Mumbai. India's stock markets crashing after US markets hit their lowest level in the last 8 months. India's stock market crashed in the morning following the slide in the Asian markets, which opened for trade before India. 4 lakh crore rupees were wiped off of investor wealth within just 5 minutes. In morning trading, by the end of the trading day, the Sensex had erased all the gains made by it in the year 2018 so far. 2 out of every 3 stocks at the Bombay Stock Exchange lost money for investors. The fall in IT or information technology companies and banking company stocks were the major contributors to Sensex's decline. A weakening rupee only soured the mood further on Dalal Street, the rupee continuing its fall against the US dollar, hitting a new low of 74 rupees 38 paise per dollar. As a result of strong demand for the American currency from importers amid unabated foreign fund outflows from India. So 4 lakh crore rupees, or 4 followed by 12 zeros. 4 lakh crore rupees of investor wealth was wiped off the Indian markets in just 5 minutes. The Indian stock markets took a nosedive early in the day. What were the reasons behind that crash? It all began with the US President Donald Trump's attack on the US Federal Reserve. Walking off Air Force One in Pennsylvania for a rally, Trump blasted the US Fed for hiking interest rates and causing a meltdown in the US stock markets.
No, I think the Fed is making a mistake. They're so tight. I think the Fed has gone crazy. So you could say that, well, that's a lot of safety, actually, and it is a lot of safety, and it gives you a lot of margin. But I think the Fed has gone crazy. Actually, it's a correction that we've been waiting for a long time. But I really disagree with what the Fed is doing.
The Fed, or the US Federal Reserve, has raised interest rates thrice this year and is largely expected to hike once again before the year end. Trump didn't stop there. The US president also took a dig at India. When asked by reporters at the Oval Office on whether India will invite sanctions for signing the S-400 deal with Russia, that could also be a major reason behind investor worries in India.
Last week, India signed an agreement with Russia to purchase S-400 missiles.
Yeah, I know they did.
Yeah. Would CAATSA sanctions apply to India, or are you planning to
India's going to find out, aren't they?
Are you planning to give them a waiver?
India will find out.
When?
You'll see. Sooner than you think.
And now we're being joined by Mr. Vijay Bambawani, market expert, who also runs www.bsplindia.com. Vijay, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. From what I understand, it began the global sell-off. It's been across the board, not just India, Asia, Europe. Everybody's been a bad day of trade. It's been a bloodbath all over the world. In fact, it all began with the US. But if anything began before the US stock markets, it is Donald Trump and his rhetoric against the US Federal Reserve.
Good evening, Krishna. Thank you for having me on your show. You hit the nail on the head. The markets were trading fairly nervously as they were, and President Donald Trump merely added fat to the fire. Now, threatening India with sanctions and in no uncertain terms stating that India will find out sooner rather than later merely added the cat to the proverbial pigeons. And let's not forget that as markets get closer to the weekend, the sense of nervousness tends to accelerate because of the 2-day holiday ahead. So I know tomorrow's the weekend session, but I guess the markets just couldn't bear the combined weight of negativity that was dominantly present in the market sentiments.
But Vijay, if those investing in stock markets are watching us, what would be your advice to them in this kind of an environment? These are highly volatile times, and global geopolitics is impacting Dalal Street in India, stock markets in India on a daily basis. You're
absolutely right, Krishna. This is, if at all, this is the first time you're witnessing this kind of volatility in the markets. You're cutting your teeth in the markets, unfortunately, at a very, very challenging juncture. But for those who've seen it before, the 2000 Y2K crash, the 2008 decline, prior to this, the 1997 Southeast Asia currency crisis, I assure you, this is a part and parcel of the market. This is a once in a 8 to 10 year phenomena which occurs unfailingly and cyclically. So don't be surprised if the markets do have an extended decline. This is just the way asset prices tend to cool off after a spectacular run-up that you've seen in the last 30 months or so. But like I said, it's going to be extremely painful for those who are holding long positions. You're going to see a mark-to-market erosion in your portfolio values.
And if I were to ask you, after a crash and a sell-off like this, is it a good time for those waiting to enter the market, or should they be still on wait-and-watch mode?
I've always favored deploying my money in staggered bits and pieces rather than trying to take a big bite off the burger, as it were. So I'm in no hurry to buy, although I do feel that there are a lot of opportunities out there presenting themselves now that the market has come down. But I would kind of split my capital into 5 parts and maybe deploy 1 part out of that 5 tomorrow morning.
Right, and what about tomorrow morning? Then, if I were to ask you, after a day like this, I mean, how do you see U.S. markets witnessing a sharp recovery overnight, and that rubbing off on Asian markets, and then eventually Indian markets?
Well, Krishna, let's not forget tomorrow's a weekend session. So no matter what you see initially in the opening part of the session, my gut feeling is the last 60 to 90 minutes are going to be riddled with cautiousness, if not nervousness altogether. So I think any kind of aggressive bottom fishing, etc., can be ruled out tomorrow. This would be a buy opportunity for the extremely long-term investors who are, like I said, deploying maybe 15, maybe 20% of their allocations at this point in time.
At a time where women's role in society and climate change are very much part of the global debate, a Jordanian village seems to be setting a good example. A group of women are fighting patriarchal traditions, one solar panel at a time. And there is a bit of India in this story, because it is in Rajasthan that everything started. Our West Asia Bureau Chief Daniela Pagani traveled to the desert close to the Iraqi border to meet the solar mamas. Take a look.
In the eastern Jordanian desert, far from the crowded capital city of Amman, life flows very slowly. The Bedouin communities living in these areas still follow their traditional lifestyle, herding goats and camels. And it is in one of these isolated villages that a revolution has taken place.
We are in the Jordanian village of Manshia al-Ghayath, roughly 70 kilometers from the Iraqi border, and we are going to meet a group of ladies who are fighting patriarchy one solar panel at a time. And where did they learn to build these solar panels? Well, in India.
Years ago, Rafia Enad took part in a project launched by the Barefoot College, an organization headquartered in the Rajasthani village of Tilonia, which aims at fighting global poverty through a learning-by-doing approach. But what was all that about? Women from different rural communities would travel to India and learn how to build solar panels. Despite not knowing how to read and write, Rafia left her remote village in the desert for a faraway land she knew nothing about. It was indeed an epic moment, and it shook the tranquility of the village.
She was less afraid than me. I was thinking, how will she survive the 9 hours flight to India, and in a place she doesn't know, with people she doesn't know. I was really afraid for her safety. I did not even know where India was. I thought about her every night. Then she came back home safe and asked me why I was worried. She told everything was fine and she wanted to go back again.
It was definitely not easy. The Bedouin society is strongly male-dominated, and many felt her choice was not appropriate for a woman. Plus, they did not believe what she wanted to do was actually possible. Councils had to take place and the Ministry of Environment in person had to intervene.
My family encouraged me to do this and they stood by me and pushed me to do it. But the local community in the beginning was not happy. They had doubts about this project and about me working as a woman.
But Rafia stood firm and promised to prove them all wrong. She went to India, she learned how to build a solar panel, and when she came back she started training other women, both in nearby villages and in the outskirts of Amman. She's still using all her notes from India.
This is the final product. There are 80 houses around the village with one of these solar panels. One of these is enough to light 5 lamps and to recharge mobile phones.
Almost all the people who obstructed her in the beginning now have a solar panel in their houses. Rafia's group has also built and sold more than 100 portable solar lamps, a precious tool in the pitch-black darkness of the desert's night. Rafia never stopped working for her community since she came back from India. Her willpower set an example for many of the women in the village.
We have traditional customs for women. They tell us, don't do this, don't do that, it's a shame. And they tell us that we should not go out alone and that we shouldn't do this and that. Now thank God, Rafia Imad encouraged all us as women living in the village to be more independent, and she encouraged us to break barriers and to try to experience life. She made us women of the village better. She made the village to accept her as a woman working on a project. Now they accept us as women working. We also started to learn new things and how to use them for our benefit. We are accepted by our men in the village and we can work. She encouraged me to run for the local council and now I am a member.
In a society where women are strictly meant to stay home and take care of their children, Rafia's choice kicked off a revolution which will hopefully pass on to the coming generations. Rafia remembers India with joy, and she would travel back even tomorrow if she had the chance to.
All of my memories in India are very good memories, and that moment changed my life. It is true that when I went to India, I was alone and life was a bit difficult there, but I truly respect the place where I used to live, and I have with me many beautiful memories. The people of India are very good, generous and helpful. They used to help us with food, drink, everything we needed. They did not leave us alone. We felt like a family. I would like to thank the people of India and especially the village of Tilonia.
And she surely remembers the food. The women she trained mostly work from their own houses. As of now, their determination is what keeps them going. But more support would be needed to expand this revolution.
Rafia's experience is just one example of how much a person can learn and how much what that person learns can change the destiny and the story of an entire community. But it takes the international support, especially if you're a woman living in a conservative society like the society which lives here in the desert of Jordan, very close to the border with Iraq. From Jordan, Daniele Pagani for Wion.